I really want some feedback from what you discovered about yourself and how you're going to map out your own behavior from this point on. But even if the only thing that comes out of it is that you have heightened your awareness in terms of how you behave and why, and that it's your choice to behave the way you do, and that you are consciously manipulating something. Even if that's the only outcome, it's a huge one. And that what is awakening in you is how powerful your choice is, the power of choices. And that you're choosing to do what you're doing in that moment, and that you can choose to do something else. You can choose a different level of power. That as we go up the floors, they become more intimidating to you. One of the most intriguing parts of my own journey is I was learning about empowerment and consciousness. I wrote the book Why People Don't Heal, because I cannot tell you how shocking it was for me I assumed everybody wanted to heal, that everybody wanted to be healthy. It was such a naive assumption that everybody would do anything to make themselves whole. I mean, why wouldn't somebody, right? And in fact, I very rarely meet anybody who will do that. It's quite the opposite. And it wasn't until I realized that I wasn't dealing with health, I was dealing with power. And that everything was about power, including an illness, and in the journey to a next level of power. And that empowerment is the most intimidating thing in the world. That it is incredibly frightening to people to become empowered. You think you want it, but you will sabotage that journey. And you sabotage it all the time. You sabotage it by your health. You sabotage it by the choices you make to maintain the narcissism that to maintain, for example, your weakness, your fragility, your anger, the way you see your vulnerability. It prevents you from letting go the things you hold on to that you don't need to hold on to. And that this is by choice. This is by choice. And that you can let go of things and move on, but you don't want to. You don't want to. Because if you move on, then somebody said, then who am I? Who am I without my wounds? Well, you are unwounded. But then you would have to change your vocabulary. You would have to change how you interacted with people. You no longer could use excuses. You no longer could use blame. You no longer could live at that level of consciousness that allows you to do things like this, to come home and attack somebody with your wounds, to control another person with your wounds, and think you have a right to do that. And then when someone says, what are you doing? Well, I've had a bad day. Oh, I'm so sorry you had a bad day. And the next thing, you're apologizing for being beaten up. So there's a lot of power in being wounded and being able to use your wounds to control other people. And giving that up is a big deal. It's a big deal. So the decision to recognize, I use my wounds all the time, and I'm not really wounded, but I'm wearing my wounds, and I've become a woundologist. And I am using this. I could heal. I could let this go. But I'm choosing not to. And here's what you have to really get. In order to maintain a wounded psyche, you will lose respect for yourself because you know what you're up to. So in order to stop the loss of self-loathing, you have to target somebody as a reason why you're wounded. You have to shift the blame. Instead of you saying, I am choosing to stay wounded because it's so effective. Because that's a very conscious thing to do. Instead, you have to target someone. And what you will do is say, I just can't get over what they did to me, this, then, the other. And then you will add, but I'm working on forgiveness. Oldest story in the book. So instead of admitting, actually I'm vengeful as hell and I don't want to mature, I need to act out because I'm still in my narcissistic phase. Now, how many would go with that category? Hands up, come on. You're here to be honest. Okay, so I'm going to hit a pause button and tell you. The reason people don't heal is they're not honest as I am being with you now. That in order to really heal, whether you're dealing with depression or anxiety, you've got to be that honest with yourself. You can't BS yourself and say, I'm trying to heal. No, you've got to be this. You've got to say, I'm not interested in healing. I'm still at the manipulative stage. I'm still at the stage where I'm using my power to manipulate others. I would like to get to this stage, but not yet. This is conscious. This is what it means to be conscious. You cannot heal yourself if you're not honest about what you're healing. Okay, are you with me here? So this is a big deal. This is what it means. So, wait a minute. Wait. What have I done? Okay, there. Okay. So when this stage here at the inner self, this floor, getting from this floor to this floor can take you years. Years. Because this is where you will encounter your saboteur. This is where you will have these experiences of getting an appetite for a higher consciousness, getting an appetite for your higher self, and yet you act out down here. The choices you actually make bring you back to the concrete level. They actually bring you down here because you are terrified that if you start to make choices that require you to see your life more symbolically, more impersonally, more archetypally, that what you will actually think, my wounds don't matter. Poor me, I don't matter. You'll actually go through this thing that you're going to evaporate. That somehow or other, everything you've lived or somehow you won't matter. The you from down here won't matter up here. Can you relate to what I'm saying? Okay? And that's one of the reasons people think that forgiveness is telling someone, my hurt doesn't matter. And I'm not sure how you want it to matter. Like in the book of hurt, I mean, in the book of long stories or in the book of wounds, you know, where do you want it to go? Exactly. Like you're the only one that's ever happened to, or where do you want it to go? But somehow you won't let go because in your world, these experiences are what makes you unique. And the idea, or it makes you special, or it makes you different. And so these are the values that stop you from ascending into your actual deeper power. So you stay here. So you stay here. And then what happens is your inner self becomes a battleground. Becomes an absolute battleground because you've activated a higher part of your consciousness. And so there's a part of you that begins craving higher capacities. And yet you sabotage them. We are born already animated with survival gut intuition. That's a gut instinct. Animals have it. My doggy has it. You have it. Okay? But when your inner self starts to awaken, you go from survival intuition to you go from gut instinct, survival intuition, to the idea that there may be something like guidance. You go to a higher level of consciousness, like maybe there's guidance. Now the whole idea of guidance, what am I here for? What should I do? Guidance is a fascinating thing. Is there such a thing as guidance? Yes. But the quality of it, what does that depend on? Depends on whether your agenda is from the lower or the upper. If it's from the lower, what you're looking for is a safety net and proof that you're going to be all right and you don't want guidance. You want a security system. Heaven does not work that way. Here's how heaven doesn't answer stupid. Heaven doesn't compensate for stupid. It doesn't compensate for careless. Heaven does not compensate. Heaven will not help you do something you can do yourself or you're meant to do yourself. It will not. That's just the way, those are the rules, those are the laws. That's why we're designed with a brain, with hands, with reason, with rational, with choice. We are meant to utilize our powers. But we are templated with instincts, vision, ambition, talent. We're template. We are outfitted to want to give things, to want to create things. We are templated with urges to want to change things. Every single human being has that. We can't stop. To want to discover things, to want to explore, to want to improve. We can't stop that. You can't stop that. If you were put in a room, you'd start doodling. You'd start doing something. We can't stop expressing ourselves. This is the innate design. Now, the way that our inner system works, what animates us, is that the more you retreat to your interior, the less you depend on the outside, the more you depend on your inside, the clearer becomes the guidance. This is the world of distraction. And if you know yourself well and listen clearly, when you ask people on the outside for counsel, you do it because you're frightened or confused. It's always when you do not have faith either in yourself or in what's happening. So let's talk about faith. It has been my experience that most people can tell me with absolute clarity what they do not have faith in, but they cannot tell me what they do have faith in. Now that's a really interesting thing, Because I think for the first time in the history of humanity, the majority of human beings on this planet are in a faith crisis. If you look at history, it has never been the case where so many human beings collectively have doubted the existence of God. Now, I think I'm going to offer this, that it is not the existence of God so much. And I'm not even sure I can describe this, so if I lose you, put your hand up. What I think is happening is this archetypal shift to a different expression of the divine, from this anthropomorphic expression which no longer suits the human experience, and all the stories and myths that go with those the 2,000-year-old, 3,000-year-old stories that go with that no longer fit the experiences that human beings are going through now. That as we learn about our energetic anatomy, as we learn about our multisensory system, as we learn about our power of choice, we need to evolve a relationship with the cosmos that is far more in keeping with how we are needing to understand the nature of our power as that which comes from within and not without. That in fact we are agents of creation, and we need to understand the cosmos as being a biospiritual, ecological, theological intelligence of which we are a part, and that this intelligence is a product of love, light, and law, and it extends throughout the galaxies. That law has no religion, light has no religion, love has no religion. It just has choice and consequence. It equalizes across the universe. And that same truth applies to your biology, to your health, to your energetic anatomy, to the anatomy of our planet, to the anatomy of animals, to the anatomy of the whole global village, to the whole system of life. This is where I believe we are evolving. In order to make that profound evolutionary leap, we need to detach from the mythologies that have taken us this far. At the earth level, it is a matter of saying, I don't like that church, but people don't get. If they could understand, we are all detaching from these mythologies so we could attach to something higher. What makes us so vulnerable now is we don't get that. As a result, all of the precious guidance that is essential to directing human beings, moral guidance, holy guidance, sacred guidance, all the things we actually do need, have fallen by the wayside. So we are in a very, very vulnerable period. Very, very vulnerable. And so it's hard for human beings to have faith. What are they supposed to have faith in? What exactly is out there? Without faith, let me just take it really down to this level. Faith begins in you having faith in yourself. So my first exercise to you, because it is so important for you to have faith and trust, you cannot have a solid life without these graces. It's not possible. It is not. Even if you have no sense of God, I do not care. You need these graces. You must have them. You need to have faith in yourself, and you start there. You need to know that if you say something to yourself, you'll keep your word to yourself, and you start there. And if you can't do that, you will never, ever, ever have faith that there's something greater than you that actually attends to your prayers. You will never believe that. So you first have to start with forming a faith-filled relationship with yourself. And you start that by turning to your intuition, because the way heaven has designed us is that it talks to us 24/7, and I do mean that. And you'll begin to know this by telling us what we need. Stop eating that. Get off your rear end and walk. It tells us survival guidance all the time. You may not have credited that. You start crediting this. You start listening to the guidance you can hear, admitting you don't want to hear it. But you start admitting it, that you actually do hear this guidance, and it's telling you to walk, or it's telling you not to eat too much salt, or whatever it's telling you. But I promise you, you're hearing some kind of guidance that's directing your health, because that's where it starts. And you write it down and you say, hearing guidance about my health. I need to walk. I need to exercise, telling me to move my body. And then you decide what to do. And you say, I will walk 15 minutes a day. Don't go deciding you're going to buy the universe. You have no discipline. You've never done this, so start small. And so you make an agreement with yourself. I will walk 15 minutes a day. Now, this is archetypal. I can guarantee you this will happen. You will sabotage it. Sure as I'm sitting here. You will encounter your saboteur. Why? Because you don't want to become conscious. You don't want to become disciplined. You want to stay lazy with your excuses. You want to stay unconscious because it allows you to make careless, foolish choices and get away with it. You will encounter that. You're going to have to fight your way through that. And this is for everybody. So you will encounter, well, I'll walk tomorrow. No. What you need to do is say, there it is, there's my saboteur. You want to know how an archetypal pattern works? That's how it works. There it is. It's sabotaging your becoming conscious. You becoming whole. So I'm telling you to schedule. Saboteur will show up. I want you to do this. And the saboteur will show up every day until you break through and you become strong enough, and then the saboteur will evaporate. And what will replace that is your first genuine taste of self-esteem, of self-respect. So this is what it feels like to give my word and keep it. So this is what it feels like. So this is what it feels like. It's the first time you will respect yourself in a way you never have. And I'm going to turn to your narcissist. Narcissism comes from the fact that you have no self-respect. That you don't respect yourself at all. So you start demanding it from extreme behaviors from other people. Because you think if you can make them respect by having outrageous demands, that's respect. As soon as you start developing this sense of true self-respect, you don't care what anyone else does. You could care less because you're beginning to have some kind of power in you that you've never had before. So you don't need any power from anyone else. The next thing you say to yourself is, well, if I make another bargain with yourself, I say, I'm going to walk half a mile a day. Let's up the ante. Give your word to yourself and you keep it. And what you start realizing is that this is what faith is, that you have faith in yourself. You have to earn this. What will happen at some point is you're going to get an intuitive hit. Something in the gut. You'll be in some situation. And for the first time, you're going to have to decide whether you trust your gut or the outside world. It'll be your first test flight. But for the first time, it's going to be a first test flight in whether or not you have faith in yourself. But for the first time, you have a reserve. You know what faith in yourself feels like. And you're going to go for it. This is how you earn that. And what happens is you are turning on the stream of inner guidance. And you realize, I trusted it. And I trusted it. I trusted it. This is how you earn that. This is how it's built. It's not earned. It's not developed because you run and ask, do you really think this could happen to me? Do you? Do you? Do you? No. You construct this exquisite source of guidance, one choice at a time, one step at a time, one day at a time. This is pure gold. You don't get it from other people. You earn it. You earn it. And eventually, somebody says, will you keep a secret? You have enough faith in yourself to give your word and know you mean it. Eventually, faith, you understand what trust is. You understand you can be trusted, whereas before you knew you couldn't because you had no faith in yourself. None whatsoever. You take someone else tell you something and you tell someone else, you can't wait to tell them. Only now you realize what faith really is. You don't do that. You don't break word. You never break it. This is what faith is. And then, if someone says, when you begin to wonder, if I say a prayer, I have to have faith that somehow or other, there's a source. There's source. What happens when you release a prayer is there's always a drop of grace that shows up that says, heard, taken care of. What does that feel like? It kind of feels like a bite of chocolate after a meal. Yeah, that's what it feels like. It feels like grace does not give you, the way heaven works, it doesn't, the whole point is that I got you covered. But faith means you do not ever get to tell heaven what to do. Ever. You're a little grain of sand on the ocean. You do not instruct the ocean. Remember your place, remember your size. And your inner mantra is humble up. Life does not need us. We need life. Learn the proportions. We are never needed. We need life. We are not important. Life's important. Get it straight. Get the rules straight. So when you say, look, I'm here, you pray like this. I'm here, you must have a job for me. Keep me from being fussy. Humble up. You have no idea why heaven wants you to do anything. And you don't get to say, this isn't good enough. But what do you know from good enough? Right? So, whatever it is, you just say, answer this prayer. You don't know what an answer to a prayer looks like, thank God. The moment I say a prayer, I from that second on, I think every single thing is participating in the answer to my prayer. Every single thing. From the moment I say a prayer, I think every single thing is helping me. I live in that kind of mindset, that kind of soul set. And here's the thing I love about the way I've reconstructed my inner life. Nothing is subject to the rational mind in my head. Nothing. It's completely, like the way the universe works is that ordinary people think in ordinary terms. Like this could never happen. In me, it's like, of course it could. When I was a baby intuitive, when I was a little girl and I saw things and heard things and whatever, it never occurred to me that something was wrong with me. I thought something was wrong with you. I knew I was totally in the world of the way it really was. And I could not imagine living in the world like ordinary people did. I couldn't imagine. I wanted no part of it. No part of it. I did not want to enter that world. I thought it was a world where all I saw was fear and foolish choices, even as a child. That's what I observed, fear and foolish choices. And I said to him, don't you put me there. Don't you ever put me there. I wanted nothing to do with it. So I got my answer, right? But I'm telling you, I know. I have never not known how the real world is. When I'm telling you to have faith in the way the non-physical, it's like physics, having faith in the physics of your life.